interested in and want to come and listen to and engage with. We're really lucky today to be joined by Jen and John from Sherwood Forest. I'm sure they'll do their introductions as part of their presentation to talk about their journey of accreditation. We're all scrabbling to get through our levels 1, 2, and they've been wonderful and managed to achieve their level 3, and something that we'd all like to emulate. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Jen and John.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I've got a few slides I'm going to share with you all, and there's also a little bit of audience participation, so you don't get away that easily, I'm afraid. So yes, I'm Jen. This is John, if you hadn't worked that out. We'll do a full team introduction in a second, but if you would all mind please going to, on your internet, having it open on the side of you, and going to menti.com. If you go into menti.com, it will then ask you for a code. If you wouldn't mind popping in the code that appears on screen at the moment, I'm also sticking it in the chat as we speak. There'll be lots more explained about that later on in the presentation, but it should give you the opportunity to have a Q&A open. It will say, as it pops up, it will say open Q&A. And that basically will mean that any questions or any comments that you want to make whilst we're presenting, they will come straight to me on my iPad that's sat next to me right now. Of course, you can also use the chat function if you wanted to, but we will kind of explain a little bit more about our use of Menti here at Sherwood later on in the presentation as well. So if anyone's got any kind of problems with accessing menti.com or putting that code in, give me a shout now, otherwise I will carry on. Can't see anyone panicking or putting a hand up or saying that the place is burning down around them, so that's all good. We'll carry on. So yes, we're Sherwood Forest Hospitals. We've managed to achieve level 3 accreditation. I had the great privilege of getting handed our certificate by Gillian Kelly at the National HFMA conference in December last year, which was wonderful. And our presentation is all about our journey to being able to achieve that accreditation level. So first of all, a little bit about us and our team. So you may know some of the individuals on screen right now. So our Chief Financial Officer for the last couple of years has been Rich, and myself as the deputy, and we're supported by 3 heads of finance. So we have
John Mason, so I'm Head of Financial Business Intelligence, and that generally covers financial planning, costing, systems, PLICs, income and activity. So it's made up of them functions.
We also have Emma, who is our Head of Financial Management, and she heads up the traditional management accounts kind of function that you'd sort of all know and expect, including some senior divisional finance managers that are effectively finance directors over there. They've got 2 directorates each, and they're finance directors over those directorates. And then they have finance managers who in each of those 6 directorates supporting them, and then of course a management accounts function, etc. that's underneath there. So that's Emma's team. And then again, of course, Michael Powell. Many of you may know Michael. He's been at Sherwood for a good number of years, and he's our Head of Financial Services. So he heads up our pay and pensions function. We actually have an East Midlands pensions collaboration that we lead. So our pay and pensions manager actually runs the payroll for both Sherwood Forest Hospitals, Nottinghamshire Healthcare Trust, and also for East Midlands Ambulance Service. And we have, like I say, that collaboration across all of those providers. So Michael leads that. He also obviously does all of our traditional financial accounting, financial services functions as well, accounts payable, treasury, etc. And then you've got a very glamorous photo of the team. I'm thrilled that we did finally get a more up-to-date photo taken last week, but it hasn't been updated onto here. But yes, it's you've got a few select members of our team there as well for us. So a bit about us: we've got an establishment of over 50 individuals in our finance team. That's including the pay and pensions element that's attributed to Sherwood Forest. We're based at Kingsmill Hospital, which is in Sutton in Ashfield, near Mansfield. So we're in the Nottinghamshire ICS system. Majority of our team actually do a lot of hybrid working, so a lot of the team are currently working from home, come into the office semi-regularly for particular meetings or for staff development, or to keep touch base with the rest of the team, and whether that's their direct team or the wider team more generally. However, we also have a good number of the team that choose to work on site permanently as well. So we've got an office environment that can cater for all 50 of our team members, some on substantive desks with setups just for them, and then a number of hot desk opportunity as well for others to be able to feel that they can come in and use one of those bookable desks and work from the site at Kingsmill. We have got a number of different social groups as well, and which I'll come on to in a minute. We've got some excellence groups, and so as well as having that formal structure that I've just talked through in terms of how from a line management point of view we're set up, we also have our excellence groups, which I'll come on to just next. So this is how we like to run our team. It's a little bit more about who we are and how we value ourselves and our team members. So we have 3 excellence groups. I'll start with those first. We have our excellence in people group. So the Excellence in People group is aimed at championing initiatives to support the health and well-being of our colleagues and the team more broadly. So they will take on board some of the more wider SFH well-being activities. They'll promote them into our team, but they'll also look at what more we can do as a finance team. What extra well-being can we offer to our team? They'll promote best practice around behaviours of kindness, of respect and appreciation, whether that is talking in our staff development sessions or sending around bulletins or giving those sort of reminders about how we can all work more effectively together. Our equality, diversity and inclusion champion also sits as part of that group. So they do what they can to promote that within our team, including one of the things that we've done in the last sort of year is really do a comparison between our organisation's EDI characteristics and the population that we serve to see where we can improve and where we need to target our efforts. So that's something that they work on. And then they also obviously engage with our team and listen to our team. So things like the staff survey, they'll take the results of the staff survey and try and interrogate, well, what does that actually mean? What can we do to improve? They'll also use the likes of Menti, as I say, which we will explain a little bit more later, to ask our team questions and find out what they want, find out how they're feeling, and take the direction from the rest of the team as to how we can improve. So that's the Excellence in People group. And our head of financial management, Emma, she sits on that group. She doesn't lead it, but she sits on it. And that's our way of trying to ensure that the direction of the team from a management point of view, and also the direction from hearing what the team have to say, are kind of aligned. So then moving on to our Excellence in Outputs group. So in a similar vein, our head of financial business intelligence, John, sits on the Excellence in Outputs group, again, not as the lead, but as a member and a participant into that group. So the Excellence in Outputs group lead on the development of our reporting, our analytics and our self-service reports. So everything that gets put out there, both within our team and externally to the organisation, they make sure that they're of the high quality, that we have got best information, and the processes in terms of producing those reports are great as well. They support the review and improvement of our systems and our processes. So obviously we use the Integra finance ledger system. Of course, we've got other systems that feed into that as well. And they'll consider not only those technical systems, but also the way that we do things. So our standard operating procedures, etc., and they'll review those things and make sure that we're doing things in the most effective way. And some of that might mean benchmarking to other organisations, liaising to best practice, looking at guidance, etc., and making sure that we've got the best processes in place that work for our computer systems, our technical systems, work for our people, and work for us as an organisation. They also gather information. So similar to how I sort of said the Excellence in People group use the staff survey, the Excellence in Outputs group will directly engage with our service users, so with our managers, with the rest of the organisation, to find out what value they get from the information that we produce as a team, and see what the organisation would like us to be able to do to be able to improve that information and to improve data flow out into the organisation. They maintain and keep all of our reporting up to date and accurate, and they analyse any sort of specific projects that we might have. They'll kind of take those on and look at a way to develop those. And then finally, as well, they'll work with the ICS more broadly to see if there's any further developments, understand what reporting needs there are, and feed into that ICS reporting. The third of our excellence groups is our Excellence in Development group. So the Excellence in Development is all around our professional development. It's around our training offer. It's around accreditation to CIMA, ACCA. It's about making sure that there's great opportunity and career path mapping, and there's development plans through for all of our team. One of the jobs that they're looking at the moment is all of our job descriptions, making sure that they're fair and equitable and consistent basis, and also mapping through career journeys through the team to make sure that we've got structures in place that that mean that people have got that longevity and that opportunity to see, this is the next step for me, and if I do this training, this is where I can go next. So that's where the Excellence in Development group sort of sit. So kind of overseeing all of that is then the steering group, and the steering group oversees the development of our finance team more broadly, and they ensure that we're making progress against delivering all our strategic objectives. So at the moment, as an organisation, as the whole of Sherwood Forest Hospitals, we're currently going through a strategy review, and as part of that, the finance strategy is being refreshed, and the steering group are quite heavily involved in making sure that that refresh is tangible back to what our operational objectives as a team are. The steering group then will make sure that they're deliverable and that the rest of the team understand what those objectives are. We also look at things like award nominations, and of course the FFF accreditation sits with the steering group as well, including our ongoing sort of monitoring of what we're doing. And then finally, underneath all of that, we have two other sort of subgroups. So our staff engagement group is all about having the opportunity to come together in a social setting. So the staff engagement group will organise quizzes, they'll organise nights out, they'll organise lunches to the chip shop, they'll organise they also do our finance conference, but it's all about keeping us connected and what they can do to bring the team together and help us to break down silo working and recognise each other as individuals. And finally, our Voice of Influence group, which is sort of managed by our finance secretary, is aimed at everyone that's band 5 and below. There's nobody above band 5 in that admitted to that group. It's an opportunity for junior members of the team who may feel that they are less willing or able to share their voice in other settings, to have that opportunity to come together and to share their voice in a safe environment. And effectively what happens from that group is any minutes from that group are anonymised and then passed to myself in that anonymous form. So any actions that the team would like to see, any questions they want to raise, any concerns that they have would reach me in an anonymous way, so that then I can take those forward. And also there's that opportunity for me to feed back into that group as well, and that can reach them without me necessarily knowing who it is that I'm talking to directly. So that's us as a team, if you like. I'm going to hand over to John now, who's going to start to talk to you all about our journey to FFF accreditation a little bit more in detail.
Thank you, Jen. So I think the first thing to say is what Jen has just described is kind of how we operate as a finance team, and kind of that's the core to us. Of that is kind of the foundations to allow us to achieve whatever we want to achieve as a team. And actually, FFF should become a byproduct of that. So the accreditation should happen because of what we've got in place. We've not put things in place to get the accreditation. So for us, that's a key thing of how it should work. If that works, this will come. Not if this works, that will come. So that's kind of the key for us. So in terms of our journey, our FFF journey, so it started back in 2008, where we basically put forward our intention to go for level 1. And as you can see on screen, we had quite a quick turnaround between getting accredited for level 1 in January 2019 to then also getting level 2 the same year in July 2019. And something happened between 1920 and 2022, which I'm sure we're all aware of. So we moved through that very quickly, and then we got to 2022, where we said, right, now's the time where we feel as a team we're in a place now to go for level 3.
I've got headphones in here, so if I'm just saying,
I can hear a voice.
Perfect. So we said, right, we're in a place now to go for level 3. So we said, let's pull a team together, guided by the steering group, the task and finish group, to get us through that accreditation process, with the aim and hope that actually everything that Jen's just gone through in terms of how we structure ourselves as a team will kind of allow us to do that. And we'll come on to what we're at some of our reflections and how we did it in a minute. But it ended up with us getting our accreditation in late 2022, October 22. That's not it. You can't just stop there and think, right, we've achieved level 3. There's nowhere else to go. What next? So we're very conscious that actually we need to continue to reflect, continue to learn, continue to develop, continue to network, to actually ensure that all the things we want to do as a team, we continue to, and that is about development, continuous improvement. So since then, we continue to do a lot of that stuff. And one thing I think to pull out here is actually, as the numbers go up, 1, 2, 3, so does the kind of growth of the accreditation process. So it shouldn't come as a surprise actually what you need to do for level 3 is much greater than you have to do at level 1. So why did we want to become accredited? So if you pop to the next slide, these next 6 items that I'll go through are kind of like the 6 key things that we saw as a benefit of being a level 3 accredited, and actually FFF accredited. So the first one was actually to demonstrate the value of our team to our own internal trust. So actually we could say to them, you've got a good finance team here. We recognised as doing the right things in the best way. So actually use us. We've got a lot of skills here. We've got a lot of talent. We can help you do the things you're doing in the wider trust as a finance team, and actually don't view us just as, say, a back office function, because we've got a lot of skills and a lot of experience that we can use. So that was one of the key things for us, to allow us to demonstrate to the wider trust. So then actually we want to make sure we keep and recruit the best staff, and actually we see having FFF accreditation as a bit of a USP. If we can say we've got level 3 and we're one of the only ones in the region, in the north, whatever, actually for us as a team, it can start to demonstrate to the people we've already got and the people we're trying to recruit, actually it's a good place to work. We do things the right way. We're trying to improve, and actually we want our team to be a nice place to work. So it was a key thing for us in terms of getting accreditation, that it will help us recruit and retain staff. The next one was to build our network and share best practice. So we'll come on to Menti in a bit of, that was one of our innovations, that we shared that with multiple different organisations who are looking at taking on that. So actually it starts to demonstrate actually a way of working with other trusts, learning off other trusts, sharing best practice. We by no means think we've got everything right, and we're always looking to learn and find out how different things work, and actually being part of the FFF network, whether that be through one NHS finance teams or speaking to other accredited trusts. Actually, we can learn a lot from each other, and it just opens up that network. So it's a big thing for us, that. The fourth one on the list was raise our profile of our team and our great work, not just internally, like I mentioned at point 1, but actually externally. And we try to use a lot of our communication methods to kind of do that. So Twitter, we're quite as a finance team, we're quite prominent on Twitter, and it does actually open conversations with trusts. We've spoken to trusts in Kent, which you wouldn't normally speak to as part of your normal ICS discussions. So it does open up further networks than just your local network. Then you can talk about things you're doing, and again, learn off other trusts, help other trusts develop as well. So again, it starts to raise your profile, not just in your trust, but then that wider ICS, the wider country. And like I said, we spoke to people in Kent, so you start to move on in terms of geographical locations. The next one is about, actually, are we doing the right thing? So it allows us to hold that mirror up to ourselves and say, we think we're doing the right thing, but actually, as we start to go through the accreditation process, actually, is it up to level 3 standards? Are we telling ourselves something that actually isn't the case? And hopefully, as we've gone through the different accreditation, we've started to reassure ourselves that, yes, we are on the right track, we are doing well. There are things we can do better. And I think that's one thing to pull from this, is, yes, we've got level 3, but there's loads of stuff we want to develop as well. So as I said earlier, it doesn't just stop at getting accreditation. And then finally, one of the six things we picked up was, I think I've alluded to in a few of these, actually continue to learn and develop. So one of the key things we took from our level 3 accreditation, we built a very close relationship to our assessors and they started to take stuff from what we were telling them, and likewise we started to take stuff from them. So it gives you the opportunity and the networks to speak to a load of people and learn how people do things differently. Share documents, share policies. Actually, don't create things from scratch. Teach with pride and make your life easier. So it does open that network to really continue to learn and develop. So they were the 6 key things that we recognised internally as a benefit to FFF. And actually, when we looked at some of the wider national narrative on FFF accreditation, it kind of matched. It picks up on actually look at your own finance department, look at your organisation, and then look at that wider health and social care community. And actually, the benefits are the basics in place. Can we motivate the team? So we talked about retaining staff and wanting to recruit staff. Can we demonstrate to regulators that we have got financial governance in place, which will kind of allow for financial sustainability? So it's all of everything that we did in R6. Actually, when we looked at the national kind of benefits, it kind of mapped. So we kind of reassured ourselves that actually we are doing the things for the right reasons. I think I'll hand over to Jen.
So I have noticed that there are some questions on Menti, by the way, so please keep them coming in. I'll address all of those at the end. So thank you for those of you that have started to put some questions through to us. The next sort of couple of slides are about, so actually what did we do then? So that's all great, that theory of why we wanted to do it's great, but what actually did we do to get us to level 3? As John's alluded to already, the requirement, the input at level 1 and level 2 obviously stepped up, and as we went into level 3 it stepped up as well. However, arguably the process largely stayed the same, albeit the input, the engagement with our assessor, etc., may be changed. So it was more around the periphery. Things changed as we went through those stages, and the intensity changed as we went through those stages, but actually the process largely stayed the same. The bit on the right hand side of the screen at the moment that's kind of going through the circle, that's the bit that we're continuing to do as a cyclical thing. So we've got an ongoing continual process of looking at some of those areas, which is essentially, as it says on the screen, reviewing the criteria for those different stages. Making sure that we understand what it is that good practice looks like, making sure that we are up to date in terms of the standards and the requirements as they're currently shown, and that we understand what it is that we need to do. We then compare that to what we're already doing. So I sort of opened with this is who we are as a team. A lot of those things we were already doing. It's comparing the good practice that's written in those sort of standards and in the accreditation sort of guidance to what we're already doing. And what we found is actually where we thought that maybe there might be gaps, then that weren't necessarily. There was a lot of things that we were doing, but we didn't necessarily recognise its value at the point in time we were doing it, if that makes sense. And we're kind of like, oh, hang on a minute, we are actually already doing this. And then there were other things where there might have been gaps as well. We then compiled together all the evidence that we do have, and as I say, this is still iterative. Even though we've achieved level 3, we're continuing to do this. We're continuing to put evidence into a file that stands against those different measures, making sure that we've got a particular place on our network where we go, oh, hang on a minute, let's just stick that in there as something that would be useful later to draw reference to, because it helps us demonstrate this particular standard. And then, as I sort of alluded to, it's then about bridging those gaps. So where we think that there is maybe a gap between the standard and what we're currently doing, coming up with an action plan as to, okay, so what can we do? What can we learn? What can we put into place? And then keep going around that. So that's that cyclical piece. But effectively, how did we? What steps did we take in order to get to that stage? That's the bit on the left-hand side. So in terms of that, assessing the desire to progress, Obviously, once we'd achieved level 1, we don't necessarily have to go on to level 2. I mean, we didn't have to do level 1. So it's about that engagement with the team, as I've sort of said, and how we use our team briefs, how we use our ability to reach out to the team, how we use our senior team, etc., to say, is this something we want to do? Is it something that we're committed to? Is it something that we're going to put that effort into and that energy into? And I think it's worth asking yourself and asking your teams that question, because, you know, if we are doing this because it's a good thing to do, but you haven't necessarily got that real buy-in that we are committed to this, that's when I think it starts to become slightly more difficult to actually achieve. I think if you've got a group of people that say, no, we want to do this because it is good for us and we're going to put the effort in and the energy in, suddenly it starts to jump up people's priority list, and their engagement and their participation in those groups kind of increases. So once we had established, yes, we do, this is what we want to do, for all the reasons that John's articulated in terms of the benefits that we thought we would achieve, we then established a task and finish group. So again, at all 3 levels, there was a task and finish group that was established. That's not necessarily hierarchical. It is a group of people that are interested in coming together to support us to do this. However, what we did try to do is make sure that from those excellence groups that we talked about, that we got good representation. So we had a good understanding of all of the stuff that we're doing as a team. Because sometimes if you get even from a management structure perspective, if you get too many people maybe from one particular team, you know an awful lot about what they're doing, but you're not necessarily cited on what others are doing. So we tried to make sure that we got a good cross section of really engaged individuals who could recognise the benefits and wanted to be part of that task and finish group. And that's not a massive group. It's maybe, you know, 4 or 5 individuals coming together to be the sort of core evidence gatherers and pulling that information together. As John's already articulated, like I say, especially at level 3, engage with your assessor early. Level 1 is a self-assessment, and I'll come on to some of that in a second, but it is a self-assessment. Level 2, you do have an assessor, but it's a much smaller sort of process. At level 3, we were having conversations with our assessors weeks, months in advance of the assessment day, and we continued to have email exchanges even after the assessment day as things were being clarified. So it's really important you do have a really good relationship with that individual, and that somebody's a good key contact for them, because if they do have any further questions or thoughts or queries, etc., you know, having that open door is definitely a benefit. And then, as I've sort of articulated, number 4 is, you know, that bit of advice is actually that continual reflection and that continual looking at what we're doing. You know, our level 3 is going to expire at some point, and we want to make sure that we're in the best place possible. And equally, the accreditation is not about a certificate on the wall. It's about making sure that we're doing the best things that we can do as a team and remain a really great team to be part of. And so that's why we do continually reflect, even though we have achieved level 3. So, it's not clicking me on. There we go. Champ. So just a little bit about the actual assessments then for us. As I've just mentioned, level 1 was largely self-assessment, which meant that we completed the submission and sent it through. And largely that was, and you know, appreciate many of you are level 1. That's largely, you know, is sort of complete at that stage. For level 2, again, noting that many of you are already level 2, we did have an assessment day. You can see there the agenda for our day. It was relatively light touch is the wrong word, but it was a nice day. It was an introduction meeting with key individuals who'd been part of the task and finish group. They met with our chief finance officer. They sat in on a finance team brief and really sort of got a feel for who we were as a team and how we operate as a team through those kind of meetings. And then they met with 1 or 2 sort of focus groups as well. However, level 3 was a whole different ball game. It was actually, as I say, quite a lot of engagement pre the event. And in the first of those sort of snippets that you can see at the top, this was all part of the preparations that we were putting in place. We've got quite a big lead up into our assessment day. We've got key milestones and meetings that we're having with the assessor at that point. And actually the assessment itself was over 2 days. It was spread over a couple of days. They wanted to meet meet with our chief executive. They wanted to meet with our chief finance officer. They wanted to meet with focus groups around the finance team. They wanted to meet with other individuals from within the organisation. So they met with clinical managers to find out how it is to be a customer, if you like, of our finance team. They met with a number of different operational and clinical colleagues from around the organisation. So as I say, it was quite intensive and a lot of information and a lot of data kind of pulled together. But the assessor was there to support us as well. We didn't feel done to, we felt very done with, I would like to say. It was a collaborative approach where we felt supported by the assessor. That's part of that engagement and that lead in place. And a very nice, successful couple of days, I would say, in terms of that assessment itself. All right, I'm not clicking on again. There we go. I'm clicking on now. So a bit of advice then for everyone in terms of how it's been for us and some of the lessons learned that we have had. So there we go. So I'm sure I've said this about 3 times, but I'm going to keep saying it. Our number one sort of bit of advice is maintaining the evidence as you go in. The difficulty and the enormity of looking at that checklist and thinking all of the work that you've got to do largely comes from starting from a blank sheet of paper. And it did feel enormous at first. In fact, I remember conversations when we first said, let's go for level 3 then, us saying, we're just not going to do it. There's too much to do. We haven't got enough time to do it. How on earth are we going to do this? And actually, as I say, it wasn't as bad as what we thought, but certainly having maintained some of that evidence and kept things going would and does make it easier as we're sort of moving on now. Find your Tracy. You might actually see her hiding in the background actually on the call right now. She does know that I'm making a star out of her, so sorry about that, Trace. So Tracy is best described as, and forgive me Tracy, as a dog with a bone. She doesn't let stuff go. She will keep on your back until she's got what she needs. And that is absolutely wonderful when it comes to making sure that we've got the evidence gathered that we need to be able to support the journey that we're on, the accreditation that we're on. So Tracy was absolutely fundamental and remains to be fantastic in asking people for bits of emails or spreadsheets or their training feedback forms and things like that we can then stick in our file and make sure that we've got them ready for next time. So find your Tracy, find your person that will make sure it all happens. Our third bit of advice is to pinch with pride. So that's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what the whole accreditation process is about. It's about us learning from each other. It's about us working collaboratively together. It's about us recognising when somebody does something better than us and us reflecting and replicating that into our own practice. So, don't be ashamed to do it, is my advice. I think sometimes we can get ourselves het up on we need to be perfect, and that means that we need to come up with all the ideas ourselves. It certainly doesn't in my book. So please, talk to people, find out what they're doing, have the conversation, see if it works in your organisation. There's things that we've tried in our organisation that people have said, oh, it works really well for us, and we've tried it in our organisation and it's not worked. Equally, there's things that have been great and have just thrived and bloomed, and it's great. So give it a go, pinch with pride. Last couple then, so you're probably already doing more than you think you're doing. So like I say, when you first look at that checklist, it can seem like a mountain to climb and a lot to do. And the reality is, if you get that group of people who have actively said, yes, this is what we want to do, and have taken that time to think on it, and then sit there and go and look at it themselves, so long as you've got the right cross section of people, you will probably find you can already tick off a lot of those things. So, don't sell yourself short, as it says on there. You probably are doing more than you think you're doing. So just have a look, take the time, and I'm sure it won't be as bad as you think. And then finally, our final kind of advice and lessons are to keep your eye out for updates on the criteria. We very almost had our fingers burnt on our level 3 submission when there was an update mid us pulling stuff together and our assessment. So do keep an eye out for any updates to that accreditation sort of checklist, if you like, the stuff that you need to do, because it might change mid that application. Equally, it might change afterwards, and if you're doing what we're doing in terms of maintaining your evidence, you need to make sure that you're maintaining against the right set of standards. And
that's all levels as well. So if you're going through level 3, don't forget to re-look back at level 1 and level 2, and likewise if you go to look at level 1.
Yes, exactly. So if you're doing level 3 and there's an update at level 2 that is asking for a bit of evidence that wasn't there when you did your level 2, you need to make sure that you can demonstrate that you've got that, even though you're going for your level 3. So just keep an eye out for all of those bits. Okay, hand it over to you again.
Yeah, so that kind of give you an overview of how we got there, what we did, bit of advice. So what next? What else? So incorporated in all that, we just thought it'd be useful to pick up on a few things, just something around innovation, something around how we communicate with the team, and something else around awards. So we just pop on to the next slide for me, Jen, and we'll just talk about Menti, which Jen helpfully introduced at the start. So we put what is Menti forward for a 1NHS innovation under the strapline of a clearer voice. And it was all about giving the team a voice, giving the team a forum to respond anonymously. So you've got to bear in mind, we've moved from a period of 2018-19 where we was all in the office and you could communicate quite easily and ask questions like that. So now you've got some people at home, you've got some people in the office, you do a team brief and then you're asking somebody to put their hand up in front of maybe 40, 50 people and ask a question that's pertinent to them, which actually they might not feel comfortable with. So we're conscious about how do we make that better. So Menti was the way we thought of doing that. And it is, as Jen's kind of introduced you to, a way of anonymously asking, well, what Jen's introduced you to is a way of asking questions or a way of making comments, but actually it's much wider than that. What it allows you to do is surveys. So hopefully if Jen flicks on to, and we'll pick up the questions in a minute.
I will come back to the questions, yeah.
To just a bit of a demonstration of how else you can use Menti is scales or surveys. So what Jen's put up now is somewhere for you to select whether you enjoy working on site, off site, doing both. I've got the equipment to do my job. And actually what we've started to use, or what we have used these for, is actually getting that feedback from the team of, do they enjoy the flexible working that we've kind of operated at Sherwood of, you can be at home or in the office as long as it suits your job. Have you got the equipment you need to do the job? And actually it becomes a quicker way of getting real-time feedback from the whole of your finance team. We've used it to drive the objectives of the excellence groups. We've used it to do a bit of a survey on communication. So it was something recently about, are the team happy with the way we communicate? Bear in mind, we've now got Twitter, we've got Microsoft Teams, we've got emails, we've got phones. We introduced a virtual notice board. And actually it allows the excellence structure to do a bit of a reflection piece on actually, do we need to change things? And we did. We changed the virtual notice board to using the Microsoft Teams platform a bit more. So it really does give you another forum of getting feedback from your team.
Let's jump back to the slides.
Jump back to the slides, that'd be great. Thank you. So the innovation. So what we did then, we put this forward as an innovation. And again, so in a similar way to FFF, don't let certain things scare you. So don't let the word innovation scare you. So you see the word innovation, you think I've got to do something that no one's ever thought of before. And it's not like that. Actually, the way we viewed it is we've used something that's positively changed the way our finance team works and our finance team engage with each other. So for us, that was one of the main reasons as putting this forward. And actually, when we was doing our level 3 accreditation, one of the assessors liked the idea and has taken it back to the organisations he's worked in and found it really useful. So again, it's that pinch with pride, share best practice. So this was the innovation we put forward, and we have got a couple more in the pipeline that we'll look to put forward for an innovation soon. So keep an eye out for those. So communication, I've kind of touched then on communication and how communication's changed over the last 4 years. So if I just list a few things we do, just to kind of tell you the broad range of how communication is. We've got Twitter, we have 2 weekly finance team briefs where We look to get guest speakers from across the trust, clinical operational colleagues outside of the trust, to come and speak to the finance team. We do a monthly roundup. We do a meet the team where we've got 5 or 6 questions where you can find out a bit more about someone from the finance team. We've got Mentor. We have staff development sessions on a quarterly basis where we try and get people on site to really focus about how to develop us as a team. We do a yearly finance conference. We have Trello. So we have a lot of communication methods. So we've got to be very careful. We don't do too many. And that's part of what we've done recently in terms of reflecting on that. But we have some really good ones. So Twitter, it's a good way for us to actually communicate with the external environment to SFH. So our wider ICS or wider countries, so I think where we've got in contact with someone from Kent, and we'll share things like our monthly roundup, which focuses on actually what have financial management, financial services, financial business have been doing, what successes have we achieved over the last month, what things have we got coming up. We can advertise our finance conference. So we're starting to use this as a really good way of kind of promoting us, promoting the good things we do. And again, I think we've shared some of our monthly roundup format with other trusts about how they can use it. Like I mentioned, we have team briefs every 2 weeks, and we try and get different people to come and speak. So actually, as a finance team, we can still hear from, even though we're working from home, a clinical colleague or an ops colleague. So actually, we still do feel part of an acute trust, of an acute and an NHS site, not just a finance function. So we have a lot of communication methods, and we just try and make sure we review, a bit like we do with the FFF, that they're always as effective as we want them to be. So that's a bit of a piece on our comms. Awards. So again, it's that holding a mirror up to yourself of, we think we're doing the right things. Are we doing the right thing? So the steering group, as Jen mentioned earlier, are quite active in looking for where there are awards of relevance to us. So we've got some on the screen that we've won and been shortlisted for over the past couple of years, and they're not just NHS related. There are some non-NHS ones on there, like the Women in Finance Awards. So we've got some shortlisted candidates on there. I think the awards this month, we've got the East Midlands Finance Awards, again another non-NHS one where we won Large Team of the Year last year. We have our internal awards, our internal trust awards, Value Maker Awards, National HFMA Awards. So what we're trying to do this for is partly is recognition to say, yes, we are doing the right things, but actually just to make sure we can learn off other people who are nominated on there. It's another way of networking. So when we go through some awards later in the month, actually, the benefit of that is speaking to other people on those shortlists and actually saying, what do you do? How do you do this? So we are quite active in trying to find out where we can hold that mirror up against that sort of say, are we doing the right thing? And hopefully, in the main, we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the sort of roundup, close off, if you like, on sort of our presentation. So we've got a few frequently asked questions that we get asked, and I think there is a bit of irony that some of the questions that come through my Menti are on the similar sort of lines of the frequently asked questions. So the first being, how do we engage everyone? And there's also a question on Menti at the moment that says, how long did it take to get staff on board with groups, and also how many people are involved in the excellence groups? And the reality is we've got a team of over 50 individuals, and the key word there is individuals. Everybody is different, everybody has different view on things, and that's okay, and we accept that. There are members of our team who are wanting to progress their career and wanting to progress the team, and they are very active and wanting to be engaged. And there's equally members of our team who want to come to work, earn their money and go home and be back in their family life, and that's also okay. We want to be a team that is open to everyone to feel that they can be themselves. And so the key word there around how we engaged everyone. The reality is, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're, everybody's all smiling and holding hands and singing songs, because we don't. We're a team, an inclusive team in that sort of respect. But how many people do we have that's actively, participating? I'd say probably in the region of about between 5 and 10. I'd say it's probably closer to 5 in most groups, across each of the groups. There are people that do multiple groups. Not everybody does, and not all of the groups have got the same people on them. There are different people on different groups because different people have different interests and different priorities. And there's a lot of people that only do one group, but there are some who do multiple groups because that's what they choose to do. We also often get asked what capacity is required around doing our FFF. And the reality is, of course, you do need to make that commitment to pull that together. You do need to have that task and finish group to pull things together. But actually, this isn't about a job that needs to be done. It's not about a task that needs to be ticked off. This is about who we are as a team and how we want to engage with the rest of our team, and how we want to be inclusive and be the best that we can do, and make sure that we're producing work in the most effective way and productive way, and making sure that we've got the right systems and processes, and all of those things actually will release capacity and will make us more productive and make us a better place to be, and aid communication. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit chicken and egg. Yes, you need to put something in, but you'll get a lot out as well. Similarly, on the personal benefits, so there's a lot of individuals involved in our groups and involved in FFF who are, as I say, around their career development and wanting to learn and grow. And that doesn't just mean students. I don't just mean students with that. I mean people who want to expand their horizons and want to develop as individuals, and it gives them that opportunity to do so. I know that there's some individuals involved in the groups that I sit on who are kind of like, I never would have talked to you before, Jen, but actually you're human, aren't you? Yes, I am. I'm a person as well, and you can build that relationship. And I think that's one of the things that it does it brings down those barriers and gives us opportunities to learn from each other. We also get asked around the One NHS Finance resources an awful lot, and how we use the information that's available. And I come back to that comment around pinch with pride. If there's something out there, then let's use it. So there was, for example, in one of our team briefs, we used one of the tools around team development, etc. We replicated a lot of the documents that were in a One NHS Finance pack into our Menti, and used that to structure our team brief, to sort of poll our team and find out how we can improve. And how does it help with engagement? I think we've kind of covered a lot of that off in terms of the communication externally through Twitter, and the doors that has opened, but also around how we make sure that our finance conferences, our staff development and our team briefs are giving everybody in the team the opportunity to speak. Looking on Menti, so there is also, in fact, I'll pull it up on screen so that you can see if I can find where my mouse keeps disappearing on me and I can't see where it is. There we go. So I've talked about how many people are in the excellence groups. I've talked about getting staff on board, and how long did it take to get staff on board? That's still an iterative process. I'm still, even today, I've had a conversation with somebody's come to me and said, Jen, I need to talk to you about X, Y, Z. And at the end of that conversation, I've said, why don't you think about getting your voice heard a little bit more? Why don't you join one of the groups? Why don't you see about, so it's always ongoing.
Yeah, and on that one, I think the best way to describe it is it's fluid. So you will get people who will join for a period of time in one of the groups and then drop off, because at that period of time there was something of real interest to them in that group. So it's fine. And then somebody else will join, and we don't, it's not a closed shop. We'll constantly say, we'd like more people to come and join us on the people group or the output group. So it is fluid, and it's, we just, a bit like you need your Tracy, you need just to keep going. It's not a one-off thing, and I think that's why how you get people on board.
I've talked about how much work it involved. So you get back more than you put in is my kind of underlying sort of message around that. This about documenting PDPs, there's no requirement to put personal sensitive information into evidence to support FFF. There's nobody at One NHS Finance that's wanting to read all of your personal development journey, etc. So it's more about making sure that you have the structures in place and you can evidence that conversations are happening, and that you are assuring yourself that those conversations are valuable to the team. It's not necessarily about the content of the PDP, if that makes sense. How do you map progress for staff as people move through their exams? How do you create roles to enhance their career? So a lot of this that we're sort of talking about here sits with our Excellence in Development group. So it's around the objectives that we set for our Excellence in Development group, about making sure that we've got those clear development pathways seen for people. It's about tracking how many students we got and what support they're getting from within the team. It's about the mentoring and coaching offer that we offer within our team as well. We haven't actually talked about that, but we do a lot of mentoring and coaching for anyone who wants one, basically, especially those that are studying. And it's about that excellence in development group having their communication out into the team. So our team briefs, each of the excellence groups will come and present and say, these are my objectives, and then later they'll come back and say, remember, I told you these are the objectives, this is how we've progressed against them. So that's how we would map that progress.
Just it's not about increasing staff numbers, I think it's more about having a structure that kind of you can see a progression. There may not always be that gap to progress, but actually, if you can see that route, actually, that's what it's about, not creating new.
The reality is, one day, whether through retirement or something else, I will leave, you will leave, your job will become available, and what we're trying to do is make sure that everybody in our team, especially those that are starting out in their career, can see the opportunity and the path as to how they would get there if and when the time was right for them. That's the aim. It's not about increasing the numbers necessarily. And then finally, have we managed to set anything up across the ICS where people are able and encouraged to take some comments? So yes, we've got lots of examples of this. We haven't necessarily got a cross ICS sort of Sherwood way, if you like, replicated, but we do have really great relationships. I can see colleagues on the call already. John and I sort of went, oh look, so and so's just joined. So we do work really collaboratively across Nottinghamshire. Which has its pitfalls at times, and great positives at times as well. So we do have, at the moment, we've got opportunities taking place where, again, our Tracy, where we're gonna loan her out a little bit. She's going to go and help another organisation in our patch go and support their function. Just because she's marvellous, and we've got lots of opportunities where we do that sort of cross-system working. But it's really important that we do stay as a whole ICS working collaboratively together and supporting each other.
Yeah, simple things like if there's a job advert going out, we
share them.
Whoever it is within the different organisations, we'll try and link in to say, could you share this among your team as a potential opportunity? It might be a permanent opportunity, not a comment. So we do try and do things like that.
Yeah. As much as possible, we try to talk to each other before stuff goes out as well, so that we can try and promote opportunity within our patch where we can. Yeah. I can see that there's one more comment in the chat as well around using SurveyMonkey to get feedback from budget holders. That's absolutely fantastic. We do something quite similar ourselves. So within Integra, there is a functionality to do questionnaires as well, isn't there? So we do use that. So.
Yeah, and we use a free version of Mentor, so we don't do the pay.
Yeah, we don't pay for it. Sorry, we have overrun ever so slightly. I apologise for that. But any other comments or questions? Come back to Jill.
Thank you. If anybody does have any questions, if they pop them in the chat or raise their hand now. Brilliant. Okay, so we have